Alright, everybody. This is DA Jack 5, Daniel Jackson, whatever you call me, I don't care. Just back here, kind of to show you guys some more stuff about Blender, and specifically the game engine. This one's going to be a little bit different in the fact that I figure just as important as knowing how to do everything is knowing how to have a good problem-solving technique, I guess you'd say. So what I've decided to do is kind of walk you guys through what I'm doing, and we'll probably have to break it down into pieces, but hopefully you guys can also see then how I'm problem solving throughout whenever I have an issue. And I'll try to narrate everything I do as I go along. Now, real quickly, let me go ahead and turn on. It must be over here. So just so you guys know, if you're ever doing a podcast or tutorial, something like that, if you go to User Preferences, Add-ons, and there's one called Screencast Keys. Here it is. So you can activate that. Go over here, Start Display. It's really nice. So now whenever I hit something, it shows up over here. So middle mouse, scrolling out, right click, left click. It holds basically however many as old as they are, and then as it goes, it deletes them. So that's kind of handy to have. So we're going to make a, quote, 2D side-scroller. Now, obviously it's a 3D program, which actually has a lot of benefits for 2D side-scrollers, and I just made bunny ears in the air. Sorry about that. For the 2D part, we'll see. So first what we're going to do is go ahead and just delete everything in the scene. There we go. And we're going to actually use the side. Some people want to use the top or the other side here, right? We're going to use the front as the side, so we're just going to go this direction. And for our first game, we're going to make a, I don't know what we want to make. Maybe just a simple Mario type clone. All right. So the first thing to do is to work out the mechanics of the game, and then we go in and actually start making it look the way we want. So there's a couple things, and one thing too, when you're using Blender, always have a web browser handy. It's good to have, good to use. You're going to need it. I can guarantee I'm going to have to look something up probably. So the first thing we're going to do is add our ground. So I'm just going to add a cube. Move it down. This red line right here will be kind of our 0 point. Go ahead and, whoops. Move this up. And I know I'm not narrating everything. I don't really feel like I should have to. I think you guys are smart enough to see what's going on, especially if you're looking down here as well. So now I'm just going to rotate up a little bit. And you can see how we actually do have some depth there. It's not really 2D, and you'll see why that's handy in a minute. All right, and we're going to add a camera. And we're going to move it out a little ways here so we have plenty of view. Now we have a couple different options here. Right now, as you can see when we come up, especially if we go into game mode by pressing P. Well, hold on, we'll go ahead and add a light too real quick. Let's just use, we should probably go game mode here, and then GLSL. Keep things looking nice. Okay, so if we go into game mode here, you can see it's not actually 2D, it's 3D right now, with full projection. So, which can be handy if that's what you're going for, like a mock 2D type thing. That's not what we're trying to do. So, first off, to differentiate it, we're going to go ahead and give this a material. For now, no specular, and we'll make it kind of a green color. Click on the camera, or select the camera, right click on it. We're going to go over here, and you see you have different types of lenses on your camera settings. Perspective, orthographic, and panoramic. Perspective and orthographic look different. Panoramic looks the same until you get into the engine itself, when you take a render. It's hard to show here, but it makes a panorama, basically. So we're going to do orthographic, and then from here, if you move the camera back and forth on the Y or its local Z axis, you won't actually see a difference until it passes the object. You can see that there. So what I mean by that is it doesn't matter how close or how far away it is. It'll look the same. So to change the viewing size here, we change the orthographic scale. So let's put it up to about 10. And we're going to move it up to there. So now when we play the game, all we see is the ground there. Okay. So what this does is it kind of gives us our basic setup here. And I'm going to actually get rid of that light, and we're going to just use a Hemi light. I like them a lot better. We're just going to rotate 45 degrees, rotate Z 25. So now if we add a sphere, for instance, you can see the sphere from its angle right here, okay? We'll go ahead and give it some physics just for kicks and giggles, rigid body, and whoops. Maybe not box, we'll actually want sphere, won't we? Hey, there's an idea. Alright, so if we rotate this guy here just a little bit, we can watch it roll away. Now, of course, there is the issue of it. What if it's rotated like this? It's going to fall down and rotate right down off the screen, which, of course, in a 2D game can't really happen. But we'll get to that in a minute. Go ahead and get rid of that. We'll hide this, even though it'll still work, just so it's out of our way. So the next thing we got to do is create our character. And for right now, we're just going to make him a cube. Okay. Now, right now, our cube is exactly the same width as our floor. Okay, which isn't a huge problem. We'll go ahead and give it some dynamics here. In general, your characters are going to be, sorry, just 1 second here. In general, your characters are going to be dynamic bodies, not rigid, because any movement rotation-wise, you're not really going to want, unless it's a physics game. So we're just going to do it as dynamic for now. Set the bounds to box. Okay. Let's bring the margin down. Well. Okay, so you can see we got some slight issues with it not wanting to fully sit down on the object itself. You know what, I'm going to start over. So you can see right there was a problem, and I think it has to do with the fact that the objects were not saved. So this guy doesn't really know how big he is. So by pressing Control A and apply rotation and scale, same for this guy, it makes sure that it knows what size it really is. Okay. Collision bounds box, collision bounds box. Oh, of course we got to get this guy dynamic. And it's sinking through. Not totally sure why it's doing that. So here's where we can start doing some debugging. So if we go into the game bit here and hit physics visualization, it'll show us. Okay, and that's why. This guy's center, that little dot right there, is not at its center of mass, if you will. So it's drawing our box too low. So to fix that, what we can do is press T. Well, that's fun. It does like 100 times. Alright, so we hit T, pull up our little toolbar here, and hit Origin, and then Origin to Geometry. Go ahead and get rid of it. Oh, there we go. Now we're in business. Alright, so now you can see our guy's seats down on there. Just about perfect, which is what we're wanting. And we can go ahead and turn off the physics visualization. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Now, obviously, it's a bit big for our screen, so I'm going to go ahead and scale it. Whoops. So we're just going to make sure we're in median point. S for scale, and then type in 0.5 for half. Okay. There we go. Now he falls down. Bonk. And if we look from this side angle here, you can see he's actually just a little bit wider, narrower, about 25% on both sides, thus 50. Okay. So for testing purposes, I'm going to keep the camera out here, but when we actually do the game, we won't. So now we're going to drag this up, take our little toolbar down here that has all our time stuff, and we're going to put in the logic editor instead. Press, I think it's N, there we go, to get rid of that. We're going to add a sensor. Now, as you guys probably know by now, a sensor is just something that happens to trigger something over here, okay? So in this case, we're going to use, let's use W, S, A, and D for controls. So this one's W. Going to add another keyboard sensor, S. Another one, A. And the last one, D. Okay. Now we're going to create 4 motion bits named the same thing. W, S, A, and D. Okay, and then we'll just connect these two together and it'll automatically put an AND controller. So all the AND means is that whenever all of the inputs are 1, so W, for instance, keyboard would give it a 0 or nothing if it's not pressed, and a 1 when it is pressed. So if both of the input, or if all inputs are 1, go ahead and do this. So for instance, if I had it hooked up like this, and I got rid of this guy, now you have to press S and A. S and A to do that. Or you could use this one, it's S or A, or anything but S or A, I think is what that one is. Really, and or are the only ones that you really use that often. Just saying. Okay? Now, right now, of course, it's not going to do anything because it knows that we're hitting the buttons, but it's not telling it to do anything. So for now, let's just do something to test it. So whenever W is hit, we'll say spin. Let's test it out. Hey, what do you know? We hit W and it's spinning. That's brilliant. We're so smart. So we know that one works, which means the rest are probably going to work. I'm not too worried about it. So now what we have to do is we have to figure out how do we want to move our character? How do we want him to maneuver around the world that we are creating? One way to do it is using what it's called location here. So lock, I think it's what it's for anyway. So we can increase its location on the x-axis by 0.1 units every time we hit it. And it's a very linear on-off movement. Which is okay, except for the fact of when then you have other things. So like let's say we had a little bit more complicated geometry here, where obviously then just a simple box like what's drawn right there is not going to cut it anymore. We're going to have to do triangle mesh. There comes some issues sometimes where you can bust through a wall if you get the right angle, things like that. And a lot of times this location one will do that because of the order in which Blender does it. So for instance, it moves it and then checks dynamics. So sometimes you can get some really weird glitches that you can't really account for. One thing you can do to help with this, and I would go ahead and do this anyways, go under the world set, or one of these two, I think it's world settings. There we go. Physics steps, maximum 5, substep, go ahead and put it all the way up to 5. So what that means is now it's going to do for every frame, it's going to do 5 checks of the, what's it called? Of the physics. Okay. So it's sort of like 5 subframes of physics, and you're going to get a lot better reactions. The other problem with this mode is, too, if you notice when you hit into it, you bounce back. Sometimes more than others. I'm trying to see if I can get a good example. You can see how you're going forward and then bouncing back. If we come around to the other side, you might be able to tell a little bit easier. So go up, you go through the wall just a little bit, and then you bounce back, which is not good for some games where you need more precision. Now we could write a whole Python script to take care of this for us, but I don't feel like doing that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to just use some other types of motion, okay? So we could use force or linear velocity. Here's the tricky part with those, and I'll go ahead and give you an example. If we set force, first off you have to have a much higher number to even get it to move because it's not going to want to stick. Let's go up to 100 here. There we go. So we get it much more natural, but when you let up on it, you'll feel, let me move it back real quick. When you let go of the W button, you still roll because you still have that force applied to it. So force is more like if it gets smacked with something. You imagine a hammer coming through and smack. That's how it's going to react. That's what's happening to it. Okay? Again, it's not bad, but it's not great. Linear velocity just sets its linear velocity, so it's a lot closer to what we want. So if you put it up to 1, there you go. The tricky part with this is, if you notice when you hit W, now it's floating because it's a weird little thing it does. So it's like it doesn't fall when it needs to. So what we can do is we can do add instead of set, which will do it, but then it also increases. So it increases its speed, which is, again, not what we really want. So what's the answer then? What are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do instead is use servo control. There's actually character motion, which, I'll be honest, I haven't really messed with much. Let's give that a shot. Okay, so that's still moving us around. I don't know what's up with that. What if I do jump? What's that do? Nothing. I wonder if that has to do with the physics setting over here with character. I'm going to feel like an idiot if this is how... Oh, hey! Okay, this might be awesome. See, this is what I'm saying, guys. This is good that we figured this all out. Oh, he's jumping around a bit. But he's not moving away. Okay, this is good. I think I like this, actually. So it automatically snaps us to the ground. Now we are kind of moving around a little bit, which is a little odd. I'm not sure what's up with that. but we can control that. So, okay, I think I like this. This is stuff that I haven't even messed around with. You guys are learning with me. So first off, let's go ahead and see if we can add a constraint so that it doesn't move around so much, because we don't want that. So let's do constraint. I haven't messed with constraints in a long time, so we'll see how this works. And frequency up at 100 for now, so it's lots of time. Linear constraint, location, orientation. Okay, so on the y-axis, it's always 0. Okay, that works pretty well. So it can't possibly get off. If you even put it off, boop, it's going to go right back on. That's what we want. And if we just have it, yeah, like that works fine. Okay, and then we'll also maybe add a rotation one later if we end up getting in trouble there. So, all right. So we've got W is actually going to be jump. So let's turn that off. Put that down to 0. So W is to jump now. You can only jump when we hit the ground. I like this. See, Blender is awesome. You learn something new every day. Okay, S. I honestly don't know why we had S. Maybe if we want to do crouching later, we can figure that out later. A. We're going to put the character motion as well. A is going to be negative. Ooh, it goes down. That's cool. So A is bringing us backwards. And D is going to move us forward. So let's give this a shot. So now we've got backwards, forwards, and jumping. Obviously, we're not jumping very high, but that's okay. This is a really high hill for a video game like this. Let's bring it down about half the height there. Pull it over. And while we're here, let's just go ahead and add a bit more. This is obviously very poor level design because we got all these polygons in here that we don't need, but we'll get into that in a minute. All right, so now we can run around. Oh, sorry, there we go. We can run around. That's pretty cool. We can jump up on top of stuff. We're pretty much the best. This is great. I love it. All right, so now we got a problem though, and that is that we can go like this, and we have no idea where our guy is now. So how do we do that? Well, there's a couple ways we can do it. One, we can parent these two together. So now it looks almost like everything else moves, when in reality, we're the one moving. But you can tell this isn't a very natural way of doing things. And plus, when you run into walls and you can't fully touch, it kind of adds some odd little layers. So how do we do this? What are we going to do to make it better? So there's an actuator in here called the camera actuator, which we can use, and is useful in a lot of 3D games and stuff. The problem with that is it's going to want to rotate the camera around, and we'll have to have a whole other set of constraints in just to keep it from moving away from its view straight on it. Because as soon as it starts rotating up, we're going to start getting different angles on it, and it's not going to look 2D anymore. It's kind of funny if you think about it. We're trying to get back to 2D, even though 2D was just trying to get to 3D. Anyways, so what we're going to do instead, first off, we can go ahead and do no collision on here, as always, so it doesn't mess with anything. Saves us some space. But we're going to go into here. Let's see. It's under Object, I believe, and it should be something like Animation Helpers. Relations Extras. I was close. Slow Parent, and then we're going to put this to 10 for now, just so you can see what it does. So you can see now, it's almost like it's spring-loaded. Bloop, 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 bloop. And the way this works, we're always 10 frames behind the block. Okay, so let's take that up to 50 and see what we get. Now we've got a much more smooth action between them here. Okay, so we're doing better. I'm going to move the camera away a little bit farther because I feel like we're still really close. Let's go all the way back to 20. Okay, so now we've got our little dude running around. I feel like this is good. We made good progress. Okay, now just for our view's sake, let's pull this all the way down. There we go, just to kind of keep it nice. So we made it quite a distance here. I like this so far. So what we're going to start doing now is adding some different things that we can interact with. Now we've got our basic movement down. This is good. Okay. So next point here is going to be a win zone. So an area where when you touch it, you're at the end and you win. So for us, we're going to put it on top of the little peak here. I think that's a good place to put it. And with Blender, it makes it nice and easy. A lot of things are visual that in other places would not be. So for instance, normally you'd have to have basically just say when you're near a certain point, consider it a win. Ours, we can just say when you touch an invisible box, you're in the win zone. So, just like I said, we're going to make a box. I'm making it 75% of its normal size just so that it fits within one of these little layers here. You can make it whatever size you want. And we're just going to let it kind of poke out. I'm not even going to worry about rescaling it. We're not even going to render it. It's just there as a little trigger pad more than anything else. Alrighty. So there's that. Now what we're going to do is, let's see. Go into texture for now, just so we can see it. In reality, obviously, it's not going to actually have a texture. We don't need a texture on it. So now, when we play the game and we run up onto it, you can see we're on it, and you can see us kind of bouncing back and forth, up and over it there. Okay, nothing happens. So how do we make something happen? Well, that's actually pretty easy. Give our player, we need to give it a property. So we'll click this little doodad here, or we can hit in. Add game property. This is like a variable for it to have, and we're just going to give it one. It's a boolean or boolean. I don't even know what you want to call it. We'll call it player. Go ahead and check it on. It doesn't matter. It's just going to check to see if it has something called player. It's not even going to check if it's on or off. It's just going to say if it has one called player, then we assume that we've touched it. Okay. So now we take our little box guy here and we say add a sensor collision with property player. So whenever something that's a player that has the property player collides with it, game restart. So it'll restart. So let's give that a shot here and see what happens. Climb on up and oh, hey, what do you know? It restarted. Okay. Now, of course, in the real game, it would have restarted. This one, I just did that. Let's go ahead and save this real quick. I'm just going to save it on the, well, poop, I don't know. Make a new folder called game, and we'll just call it as game.blend. Easy peasy. Okay, just to save it off. Now, obviously, in our real game, we don't want that to be visible, even though it's just barely visible there. We probably don't want it to be. You probably will want there to be something visible, but not that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, tell it that it is a, so here we go, sensor, detect actors. So now we can walk through it. It won't. We'll actually sync through it a little bit. Ooh. And invisible. So now we should sync straight through it as we touch it. Okay. The other option we can also do is static actor ghost. We might not even need ghost or actor. So ghost just means that you can pass right through it. Kind of makes sense. Yeah. And invisible. There we go. So now, it's pretty great. If we turn on physics visualization, you should be able to see it. Yep, there it is. You can see that it's still there. It's just not being rendered. So it makes it nice and easy. Now, did it really just? That's odd. Now it's showing it. Does it do that? Did it do it in the last one? Oh my, it is. That's a bit odd. Well, in reality, it wouldn't actually be restarting. It would be quitting. So we'll call that good for now. We'll figure it out later. Because that's really odd. It shouldn't be showing up at all. Okay, so let's go ahead and just leave that like that. So we now have an end point for our game. Okay, and we've got little lots of fun. But of course, what good is a side-scroller game unless you have people to jump on top of and kill? So how are we going to do that? Well, first off, let's make our level a little larger so we have some room to play here. And what we're going to do is create another character, roughly the same size. So we'll make another cube, scale it down. Woo. There we go. I'll move him over here, and we'll add a little color to our guy because we haven't done that yet. Call us player. Also, just a little side note for collisions, you can also do it based on materials. So things with certain materials, when they collide, they'll do stuff. Whether it's useful or not, I have no idea. And our bad guys, we'll make them pinkish purple, fuchsia. I don't know what you want to call it, because everyone knows they're evil. Okay, so right now we can do a whole Mario jump on top of them like a boss. Doesn't really matter though. So we'll go ahead and give them some characteristics. First off, they're dynamic. Collision bounds are box. So right now we can actually push them around then. When we jump, we have enough friction on them to actually make them jump. That's kind of fun. I like that. So you can see how some physics games could be fun, right? Especially if you made this into a sphere and used a sphere on them. You can roll them around maybe. Yeah, there it is rolling around. It just isn't rotating, which is okay. Alright, so we'll do back to box like we had. Nice and easy. Save it off. Always save a lot because Blender doesn't ask if you want to save when it quits. Okay, so now what we have to do is figure out when this guy should die. I know, it sounds awful. So just like before, we're going to have a sensor. But this time it's going to be on the top of his head, as silly as that sounds. So we're going to make another cube. And it doesn't have to actually be a cube. It can be anything, any mesh that's going to be collided with when the player lands on his head. So I just wanted to point that out. So I don't get all these people, how do I do this? Which I don't mind if you ask questions, by the way. That sounds mean the way I said it there. So we're going to want to set it really close down to the surface. And the reason why is because we don't want you to be jumping over and then accidentally graze it, and then it just disappears. So, okay, and we're going to parent that to the bad guy. So now the bad guy will flip out because it has something in his head. So, of course, we have to tell it, no, you're an idiot. You're a ghost. You're not going to affect the physics world. Okay? We'll make it invisible eventually, but for now, we'll just leave it like that. So now when we land on top of it, it's as if it doesn't exist from the physical standpoint. And then what we're going to do, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting now, we have to connect a sensor on this that detects when the player is attacked, and a sensor on this to say, hey, go ahead and kill yourself when that happens. Not attacked when it's touched. And then, of course, this has to disappear too. So what we'll do is we'll do just the top one first. So whenever there's a collision with player, go ahead and destroy yourself. So edit, object, and end object. Okay. So now, when it comes in contact with the player, boop, you saw it disappear. But of course, we need our bad guy to disappear as well. Maybe even play a little animation or spawn something else that animates and then disappears. So we can tell this guy to disappear when we do something by using an end object actuator. But how do we make it happen when this guy is touched? Well, it's actually pretty easy. You just select them both, and you can connect a and here straight down to there. And now the two are linked. So when you click on one, you'll actually see both. And now when this guy, the top guy, is hit by the player, then it kills both objects. And we'll test that out just to make sure. Come on over. Boop, there we go. And you actually just fall right through because it's already going from the physics world as well, which is nice. All right, well, that's all well and good. And we'll go ahead and make this guy invisible real quick. But what about, let's just go ahead and make a couple of these guys just for fun, right? There we go. Oh, look at this. So many bad guys. Oh, what are we going to do? Of course, they all fall down. And of course, we're starting to lose a little bit of frame rate here because I'm running like two things at once. And we can go through and kill them all. Squish. This will be fun. Ready? Whoa! Oh, I thought maybe we could get on top of them. There we go. Nice and easy. But what about damaging the player? Because obviously that's something that needs to happen as well. And what we can do is, first off, we're going to go ahead and create a simple health system. So let's go ahead and add a new property here called health. It's going to be an integer, which means it's just a 1 through a billion, 0 through a billion negative numbers as well. And we'll start it off at 10. So you have 10 health points. And for now, we're just going to go ahead and hit this, which will debug it. So right now, you notice it doesn't show anything. But if you hit game, show debug properties, there it is. Health equals 10. You see it up there in the top. So it shows our cube, which it really should rename to player. It's kind of mean for us not to. There we go. So now it'll say player health equals 10. Okay, nice and easy. So now what we need to do is figure out a way to detect when the guys hit the player. Well, we can do it a couple different ways. One, we can have each time the bad guys hit the player, they tell the player, hey, player, we hit you, take a point off. But that's annoying because then you have to connect each and every bad guy to the player, which means every time you make a new bad guy, you have to add an extra line to connect him in. What would make it easier instead is to have a property, just like we have a property on the player to detect when it hits here, have a property on the bad guy to detect when it hits on the player. So what we'll do is we'll create a property in here called baddie. And again, Boolean true. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything. It's just that's out of habit. That's what I've always done. And then we'll add a collision sensor, just like we have on this one. But instead, we'll have it to the front and the back. Ooh, my bad. Rotate 90. Okay, and I'm just copying it, and then I'll parent it to this guy instead, and you'll see it move there. Okay, so now it's hooked up there. And then we will... I don't know why it's got both of those hooked up there. That's all kinds of funky. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. We'll just go ahead and get rid of them all for now. And instead of saying when it's hit, be deleted, instead what we're going to do is we're going to say whenever you collide with property baddie and actuator, and then we'll say come on over to the player and do something. So we're going to come over here, go to property, add to property health a value of -1. So it's going to add a value of -1. So if you remember anything from math class, that means it's going to subtract 1. So we see 10 there, and when we hit 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, lots of fun. And then all we have to do here is duplicate the mesh part of it. We don't even have to duplicate the object, okay? Origin to geometry again. Because remember, if we go back into physics world here, it's going to include the whole thing. Boom, boom. Okay, so when we come in here and we say collision bounds to box, it's going to cover the whole thing there. Okay, so... Okay, I said that, but now it's not working, so something's not quite right. Let's find out. Actor, maybe? No. Okay, so let's just do individual ones. Yeah, like I said originally, right? Let's try this out. Make sure this works. So again, this is all trial and error. Okay, there. So now it's working again. 8 and 7. If I do box collision bounds, does it not work then? No, it's still working. So what if I expand this guy out that way? Apply its rotation and scale. Origin to geometry. Weird. So that doesn't work, but the other one did. I don't know what's up with that. All right, well, we'll just go ahead and do 2. It doesn't really matter. It's just another box. It's not going to slow us down that much. And of course, now it's not. Now it's not working. All right, time to do some investigation here. So they're going to their own of those, and they're both going to this subtract 1 health. This seems like it should be working, to be honest. Let's try and have an OR gate here. We'll move it up to the top so we can get to it easier. Get rid of these two guys. Whoa. My apologies. And then we'll say when either one of the... Oh, man. Now it's connected in the wrong way. So say when either one of those guys gets hit, do what we just said. Boo. Let's try that out. Nope. Just chuck testa. And I'll be honest, I have no idea why this is not working. Book. Oh, I almost got 2, didn't we? Okay, so I guess we get to be a little bit more creative now and see what's going on. So if we connect just one straight through. Of course, it's not liking that because it doesn't know what we're trying to do. If we connect one of these straight through to a sign property, will it work? No. Without collision bounds, does it work? Aha! So it has something to do with the collision bounds have to be a certain way. And I don't know why that is. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But it is. So, alright, now we figured that out, let's try using just one. Again, economy is the nice thing here. So the less that you use, the better off you're going to be. Weird. So it's not liking that either. I don't know if that's because it's in another object and it's getting confused because it's coming in and back out of another object, or what that is exactly. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter if it means it's not working. Means it's not working. Oh, no, it's not working that way either. What the hell? But collision with object. Health -1. This is really funny. I feel like I'm being a silly butt. Making sure I got the right collision property there. Okay, so let's try this again. There we go. Well, kinda. So again, like I said, this is all about trial and error, and it was working brilliantly, and now it's not working quite as well. Well, now it seems to be working again. Okay, so we'll add another one. Just duplicate it. And now, of course, neither one's working. This is a nice solution here. I like it. It's my sarcasm. Okay, we're just going to design a whole new one for it. Why not, right? We can. That's what we're here for. So to do that, all I'm going to do is make another cube, scale it down to just barely any taller than it, or farther around. Remove the faces we don't need. So the front-facing one, the front one, the back one, and the bottom. Delete only faces. So we've got this kind of shield around it. We'll say that if any of this shield gets hit by one of these guys, that's a bad thing. That's a health point gone. Okay. So we're going to say that collision bounds convex hull. So it's just going to be kind of a simplified. Actually, you know what? It's such a simple object. We'll just do triangle mesh. Why not? Well, apparently that's why not. Okay, so it's a ghost, but it is an actor. And we're going to parent it to our player. And this guy, we're going to say whenever there's a collision. Where are we at? Oh, down at the bottom. With baddie. Then we go ahead and remove 1 health point. Okay, now let's go ahead and get rid of this guy so we don't just land straight on top of us and watch what happens. Oh, there we went with 9. So it was working. 8, 7, 6. One direction works. Not entirely sure what's going on, I'll be honest. Oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. This is the only one that has the baddie property to it. So of course it's the only one that's going to react. So our old method probably worked too, but I think I like this one better. A little more efficient. Let's try this again here. Wow, I'm an idiot. Okay, so now 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Hey, what do you know? It works now. It's a miracle. Of course, the tricky part now is our butt isn't hanging out far enough to stomp on top of them. So we're just going to modify this here. I'm going to take the guys here, pull them up. Since there's nothing that's going to sneak in that's that shallow. Well, I thought. Now something's not happening right. So you can see how this takes some kind of tweaking around and seeing what's going on. Apparently, this one's gotten messed up enough that it doesn't have the sensor for the player anymore. I'm sure that was when I was messing around with the other one. I must have somehow messed him up. One real quick solution for some of this stuff that's nice. If you take these and do Alt-D instead of Shift-D, it creates a duplicate of that item. So now if I go in and edit one, it's editing them all. You see that? And if I'm not mistaken, that applies for everything in them, which makes it really, really nice. You have two things that are exactly the same. You can use this to them. So we'll player, connect it in, and let's make sure the other one's got it too. Oh, you know what? They didn't. Bummer. So that one disappears now. That guy has no idea what he's doing. Okay. But if you're ever changing meshes and stuff, it's nice if you have something that's exactly the same and you know you're not going to have to change them to just do an Alt-D instead of Shift-D. And we'll kind of have some fun here. Just for kicks and giggles, let's make like a pyramid. I know I'm probably wasting all your guys' valuable time, but this is fun. There we go. Oh, poop. I forgot to duplicate these parts as well. So that's the other thing. You just got to remember to duplicate everything and not just the parts you want. Okay, and Alt D. There we go. Bloop. So I got a little triangle. Okay, so let's give this a shot. Now play the game. We can see we can run around. We can smash the bad guys. Oh, look at that. We got underneath him. Of course, our health's down to 9 now because we keep smashing into him like a big old idiot. Bonk. 5, 4. Oh, no. But we made it to the end. Okay, cool. So now we've got something to work with here. You'll notice the camera, even though it's not in the game, it's still kind of being slow to respond, and that's because slow parent is not just for video games; it's also for the videos and movies as well. So it's kind of nice, kind of weird to be honest. Alrighty, so now we've got our basic mechanics down and set up, but we need to make sure this goes. Of course, since it's in 2D, you don't notice it there, and I'll show you that here real quick. If we turn off physics visualization, you don't notice it because it's perfectly aligned with the camera. So if you rotate it, you'll notice it then. But just for safety, we'll put it to invisible. And we'll see there may be a time when these guys start getting out of line, where they start moving around too much. And if that's the case, like where things are falling off, we can always change that. All right. So I feel like that's most of it. Let's see what next. If we're gonna do like a Mario type clone, of course you're gonna need some sort of power up block. So let's add a power up block and see what we can do with that. Add a cube. If I remember right, it was roughly the same size as Mario was wide, so it kind of makes it convenient. And to kind of give it that classic look, let's go ahead and do what's called a bevel. Oop, there we go. I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit. Apply rotation to scale again just to make it nice and even. Go ahead and apply the bevel. Nice. Look at that. Look at that. That's cool. We'll even get the same kind of coloring look and feel. It was like a brownish color almost, wasn't it? I really should know this, I guess. Okay, so this is our little dude now, so we can run over. Bonk. We can obviously hit it. Oh, that's a neat little glitch. If you touch something at the top of your body, you can still go. So we'll have to figure out a way to solve that. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, because we barely want to touch it. Maybe if we move it up just like a hair more. Nope, because we want to be able to touch it, but not be bouncing like that, because that's not what we want. Ooh, that's kind of cool, but now we'll figure it out in a little bit. Okay, so again, we're just going to have this one. You can do the whole thing as a touch sensor. If you wanted to get really technical, we could do just the bottom. You know what? Why not? Let's do just the bottom, because we feel like being that technical. Why not? I know I just said why not like 100 times, but why not? Okay, so this guy in particular, we're going to need to be really close to the surface. I'm going to go ahead and make it as wide as the other thing as it is, basically. Because again, we don't want to be running underneath it, doing casual jump and accidentally hit it, especially if it's like a hidden block or something like that, which is always fun. And just like the other one, this one's going to be invisible and a trigger. So we'll come in here, invisible, ghost, static, collision bounce, box. Let's not make it invisible yet, so we can still see it for now. If we made this guy a ghost, then do we still? We can always do that, make it real close, and then just make it. But then you can't land on it either, which is kind of a bummer. That we'll figure it out in a minute. Okay. Now what we do is we'll say we need to create whatever comes out of it. So in our case, let's say make it a coin. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and make a coin over here on a different layer. So I went to layer 2 just by hitting the 2 number. I'm going to add a cycle. Press T before you do anything else to change the number of vertices, because we don't need 32. We can do 12. It's not perfect, but it'll look fine. Okay, and we're going to make a coin now, which is always fun. So first off, we'll do E to extrude scale 0, so they all fill into the center. You don't really want to use F-gons if you don't have to. Scale this guy out. We're going to make the lip of the coin with that. take the whole thing and extrude it however thick you want the coin. I'm just going to go to 0.5. Okay, so there's our basic coin. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select these inner pizza pieces from the side view, extrude those, scale, Z, and hold the control button to control how much it is. We got a little lip on there too. I kind of think that'll look nice as they're spinning around, because remember, when things are spinning like that, they are 3D then. So even in orthographic view, as they're spinning around, you'll see that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do origin to geometry, so that way it's nice and even. And we'll go ahead and give it a little goldish color. Okay, and this one we actually probably will want some specularity on it, so it kind of shines nice. And when I'm doing retro type games like this, I like to keep them as kind of clunky as possible, because I think it kind of keeps with the theme, with the styling of it. Okay. There we go. So what we can do to test it out a little bit, we'll go ahead and pull it up here, and we're going to go ahead and just put it in the game world as if it was really going to be there, and add always sensor, so all the time it does whatever we put in here. And then we're going to add a motion sensor, and actuator. The screen is so tiny. Okay, and we're just going to do a simple motion rotating along the Z-axis globally, so even if it happens to rotate, it's going to rotate Z at 1 degree. Oop, we didn't connect it. That's why it's not working. Alright, so we can see it rotating there. Cool, it even reflects a little bit in the light. Let's do 5. That's nice, I like that. You know what, just for kicks and giggles, let's put on smooth shading. Oh, that's something I forgot. Right now we've got a bunch of little points in the center here, and that's not good for an engine because we just scaled them all down. So select everything, hit W, and then do remove doubles. That gets rid of it. If you really want, we could even go through and make it look a little nicer as far as keeping certain parts flat, certain parts rounded. But for now, just so we can see how it's shiny, I'm doing them all rounded. Yeah, so nice. What I was going to say we could do, just for kicks and giggles, is basically only make certain parts smooth. Which is a little trick you can do to kind of give some definition. There's a limit to how much it works, then you have to start using other techniques. But for instance, if you choose only these parts that kind of curve like this, and choose to make them smooth and not the rest, you can kind of give a little bit more definition to it. But again, like I said, I kind of like, and again, this is just personal preference, you can do whatever the heck you want, I don't care. Just leave them all like that. Okay, so now we know that works. The next thing we want to do is give it some physics, because just like everything else in the game world, it does have some sort of physics. I'm also going to make it, whoa, hello. I'm also going to make it relatively small. So when a coin shoots out, you kind of want it to come over and then fall down, right? Or even just to come up and land straight on top. That's fine too. It's not really that big of a deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it some physics characteristics and just do dynamic, collision bounds, and we're just going to do box. I know it doesn't seem like box would be the best because it's not really a box, but we don't need it to roll around, and box is a lot easier on the processor. So now we could actually create a bunch of these guys if we wanted to, and watch them all kind of run around and do their thing, and they run into each other and flip around, and it's kind of fun. Okay, for now we only need one of these, because unless you're setting them up on the game to begin with, sort of like how Sonic has those little donut ring things, but we're not going to do that. So what we are going to do, though, there we go, is make it so when you touch them, you gain some points. So we're going to come in here, add a new one, call this one coin. So again, this is just so we know when we touch it. Okay. Come back over here, add a little dude onto this guy, because not our character, because it's never going to touch our character. It's going to touch the shield there. We're going to add another collision sensor for coin. Now, the slight issue with this is it's not going to catch the coin if you land on top of the coin, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. And we can fix that. It's just kind of annoying more than anything else. Okay, we're going to add another property editor piece thingy here. We're going to add one to the, here we go, to the property coin stack. Damn it, we don't want that. Want that over here. So coins or score if you wanted to do that, something like that. But again, this is an integer because we don't need fractions or decimals in there. Starting off with 0, and then we're going to add 1 to the coins every time we hit one with that. Okay. Now I'll demonstrate here the slight issue with this. If we have our coin, we're going to put a couple of them out. We hit it. We should have gotten one. I'm not sure why we didn't. Let's figure this out here real quick. Coin. Collision with coin. Oh, it's not connected. I'm an idiot. I'm going to move this up to the top here so it's nice and easy for us to grab onto. And now this one. Wait, that's a constraint. Damn it. I wonder if there's a way. Nah, it'd be nice if you could just move stuff around. You know what I mean? Like just drag things around. That'd be nice. Why is that not going up? Bro. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't want to. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. It works. Whatever. Now, the only other thing we need to do is tell this guy, whenever it's hit by this, so we need to have two things here. Player. Actually, let's call this one shield. Okay. So you see how this gets a little bit complicated. You got to start kind of keep track of things in your mind, but that's okay. Because remember, the player hits the bad guy because you stomp on him on the bottom there. It doesn't. If it hits him anywhere else, it doesn't care. The shield keeps the rest of it from hitting, but it also tells you when something hits something other than the bottom. See how that works? So with a coin, it doesn't matter which side you hit it from. So you have to have something on the player and on the shield to keep track of it. So the coin to know when to get rid of itself, to delete itself from the scene, because you've already given yourself the credit for the score, or for the coin. It has to know when it hits the player, or in this case the player's shield, but to the person playing, of course, it looks just like the player. So the coin also has a collision sensor for shield. And when it's activated, it deletes the object. Let's give that a shot. So now score goes up by 1 and it deletes it. Perfect. Okay, we're going to get rid of these two because they're old versions of it and they're not going to have the same function. Okay, so now you can see, we go through, we got 4 coins. Perfect. Now here's the glitch with that. 1 works, 2 works. Oh, what in the world? There we go. So what we have to do is we have to add a collision sensor for the player as well. Okay. Now, because we already have this here, we can either add another and or switch the other one to an or. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to simply connect it back in here. So when we hit a coin, add 1 to the coins and set that to an or. So now that'll add 1. That one should have added 1 as well. Not sure why it didn't. May not have spelled coin right because I'm kind of an idiot. There we go. So now, because it doesn't delete, of course, we can kind of cheat and get more than there actually are. Excellent. Okay, so now we just tell the coin to also be looking for not only the shield, but also be keeping your eye out for player. There we go. And just like the other one, we switch us from an and to an or. Now you can delete it that way. And when you land on it, it's not deleting. Why not? We're getting points for it. Hit shield. Player. That is what it's called. Oh. Silly. Because it's the only one that had that. Okay. Bonk. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Perfect. Okay, so now we can get rid of these guys and put this guy back on the second layer. Now you're probably wondering, but I want him on my game. Why would I put him on the second layer? Now I can't see him in my game. He's not there anymore. Well, that's true because you want to be able to create it. So a lot of times you have the second layer is where all your items are, things that you want to create or initiate to add in later in the game. Okay, so power-ups, things like that. Let's go ahead and whoop, here we go. Take it back out here so we can look around. So we want to do is say whenever we hit this guy, make one of those coins. But of course, it doesn't know where to make the coin. We have to tell it. Normally, it'll just make it right at the center here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add something called an empty, which is just a reference, basically, to a location. Okay, we're going to make it all the way up here for now. Scale it down just because we don't need it to be that big. Okay, and for now, well, you'll see what we do. So we're going to put it right about there. Now, this guy doesn't really care when you hit it. And maybe there'll be a little animation. We can do that later. But for now, we're more interested in these. These are the functional bits. This is the visual bit. So what we're going to say is, we're going to connect these two here real quick. And whenever the guy here gets hit by the shield, because that's the only person it's going to be hit by, shield, add a controller. So whenever that happens, here's what we want you to do. And to test it out first, we're going to say, go ahead and kill the game. But this is from the empty. Check that out. Make sure you understand that. So if we hit it, oh, nothing happens. Okay, so that means we need to figure out what's going on. Make sure I spelled that the same. Yep. And it should be quitting the game, but it's not. It's a ghost and an actor. Make sure the actor's hit. Still not doing anything. Interesting. If this isn't always, does it? Yeah, okay, then it does immediately. That's good. So, like I said, this is a little bit, trial and error. There's a certain amount of that. Let's try moving it down a little bit. There's a chance that it's just too close and it's not getting a solid reading. Okay, that's not it. Let's move it back up. Let's turn off collision bounds and see if that makes a difference. No, and we'll just move it all the way down here for now just so we can really, truly make sure it's lined up vertically. That'd be kind of funny if it wasn't. Yeah, okay. So that's not it. Let's make it just a sensor here. There we go. Okay, so static, sensor, there's a difference, and that's one of them. So let's put it back where it was. Brilliant. Okay, it's still working. So now we're going to do, instead of deleting the game, we're going to do the edit object. And instead of ending an object, we're going to add an object. In this case, we're going to add our coin. So let's give it a name that we can find easily. Coin-proto. It's the prototype so you can use it to make more. All right, and we're going to add something. We're going to do coin proto. And for right now, it's just going to make it and indefinitely leave it there. So when we hit here, it's not. Oh, there we go. Whoa, there's a whole bunch. That's not sure that's good or not. Okay, so you can see we have a little problem because it's not doing it till like the second or third hit. So let's try moving it down a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Stack them on top. It's raining coins. Hallelujah. And if we actually look at it from this angle, we can even do it in perspective mode because we're cool like that. You can see they're kind of coming off to the side there when they come first out, which is kind of odd. I can't even rescue them. Okay, so what's the solution to that? How do we fix this issue? Because, obviously, for one thing, when we hit it, bing, it's up there now. We can't reach up there. We're not that big yet. So what are we going to do? What we can do is we can set, and some of you have already seen this, linear velocity and angular velocity, which is really, really cool. So if we take linear velocity and we move it up to, let's say, 1, when it's created, it's going to have a linear velocity. Boing. See how it moved over like that? Which is going to make it tend to move that direction. So we give it a linear velocity of, let's say, 2. Bing, bing. There we go. They come down. Now, as you can see, the problem is they're moving all over the place. So we have to give them a constraint like we did the other one. Like we did the player, that is, rather. So we can just connect that to our one that we already have as an always for the motion. We can also add a constraint to that same piece there. And we'll go ahead and move it up, just so it's kind of right in line there. Location constraint on the y-axis 0 to 0, so it can only be on the y-axis 0 to 0. So boom, you see it pop back. Perfect. Okay, and let's give this a shot now. So we hit it, makes a whole bunch of them, and they all stay right where we can get them. Love it. It's the miracle of money. And you notice that they start, since they start different times, their animations are kind of offset, which is kind of nice. It gives it a bit of spontaneity. Is that the word, spontaneity? I don't even know. So let's give this a shot. Bing! Couple coins. Sweet. Bing, bing, bing. And of course, you could have it in a counter and say that only after a certain amount of times can you do this. Or health's down, of course. There we go. There's all kinds of fun things you can do there. Love it. All right, now let's move this guy down a little bit. And what we're going to do now to kind of give it a little bit more realism, I guess, if you can say that. Because right now, if we put it right here, here's what's going to happen. Watch this. Ready? Make it, and it drops into the cube until it fills up, and then it starts to spew out, which is not what we want. So we move it up a little bit so that at least it can make them on top. Now, right now, they kind of jump up because they're forming just slightly inside. If we actually take the dude here and put him right inside that, you can see where he'll respawn. And it's so close on there that he bounces up because he thinks he's a little bit inside of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to help it out, actually, and give it a vertical linear velocity as well of, let's say, 5. So now when we make it, it's going to go, see how it actually kind of shoots up there? And that does a couple things. One, it makes for a cool effect. And two, it makes it a lot less likely that these guys are going to stack like they just did. Okay. The last thing that I want to do is create a timed. So right now, it's whenever there's a collision, to send it off. We're actually going to add a frequency limiter. So you hit this first button and frequency, and let's put it to 50 for now. So only once every 50 game logic ticks will it actually send one out, no matter how hard you hit it. Well, I say that, but we're still hitting it really fast. That's why. Boop. All right, we got to figure this out as far as how to keep it from bouncing. Let's do some research. We might have to use the computer if we can't figure it out. I'm just kidding, that's what my brothers call it. But no, we might have to use some interwebs to find out what exactly is going on. Collision group, collision mask. Groups this object can collide with. The collision group of the object. So we want it to collide, we just don't want it to keep jumping. Because the problem is, it's hitting the bottom. So it's bouncing, continuing to jump when you're under it. All right, let's see if anybody else has this issue. Okay, so we'll do Blender, character, physics, jump, and we'll just see what comes up here. Jump issue, but the problem is if I make a jump, let's see what this says here. If I make a jump, apply movement character, but it's not what I want. If I want to apply a force, anything happens. Okay, that's not quite what we want. So again, we're just kind of looking through here and seeing what exactly is going on. Lights and shadows, variant shadows, sun shadows. Oh, I didn't know you could do it with suns now. See, this shows how long it's been. Now you can project now. That's really cool. I like this. Okay, so jump speed is not used. Known problem. There's a crash if the compound option is set on physics. Okay, great. It's appropriate for physics type offer result. Unexpected results. Simply kinematics offer much more precision. Okay, so it doesn't really tell us a whole lot there. Okay, so There's some cool stuff though. I didn't realize about the sun. I want to try that out real quick now. So, sorry, I know this is a little bit of a deviation, but hey, you're watching my video, you get to sit it out. Create a sun. Okay, right straight down, and then we tell it we want shadow. Lo and behold, oh my goodness, that is awesome. You guys have no idea how cool that is. I've been waiting for that for a long time, and it looks to be rather functional. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I am loving this. Oh, whoa, it only works for so far. Interesting. I'll have to play around with that some more. That's cool. Sorry, guys. I'm just kind of geeking out here a little bit. Okay, so move this back. Go ahead and hide him again because we don't need him. All right. Now, obviously, this whole game, we need to hide some things here we don't need, obviously. Okay, so this is all functioning grand for now. I need to figure out what the whole bouncing thing was about. That's kind of driving me batty. But now I want to show you guys a little quick example. If you take this back out and into perspective mode, the differences you can expect to see. And this is maybe what you wanted. So for instance, if you look over to the right side there, you can see how that's affected there. So, and for a lot of games, this is more what you want. In fact, most of the stuff that I do, I like this view better. I feel like it kind of, it doesn't pay quite as close homage to some of the old games, but I like it a lot more. But for now, we're sticking to 2D. I think it's nice about 2D is when you go to make models, you don't have to worry about them being 3D. They can be totally 2D and not have a problem. Of course, perspective, then you can also do like, if there's a camera that you already know has a cool perspective lens, scale, sensor size, whatever that you like. I don't, though. Okay, so we've got that. Boing. Oh no, we're getting killed. Fun. So we'll go ahead and give our bad guys a little bit of AI, just some simple AI, where they just march towards the character, basically. Similar to how you'd see a Goomba or something like that do. And the way we're going to do that is, again, through logic bricks. I'm trying to keep as much in logic bricks as I can. So all the time, edit object, track 2. What the heck? Oh, we didn't name it very well, did we? Track 5. Or cube 3. So we want the edit object to be on. Okay, so edit object, but this time it's going to be a little bit different. So instead of... Oh, come on. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself. So now we're going to do track 2. Select player. And time is 0. So right now it's going to face the player. And we can't really tell, but it did flip around there, I'm pretty sure. Let's, just for kicks and giggles, let's give it a kind of a nose so you can see where it's pointing to. So right now, okay, so it's actually improperly rotated. So it's watching us on the wrong axis. So what we're going to do is rotate. Now, of course, we don't want to rotate in the wrong way. Rotate Z 90. So let's see. Right now it's facing forward. Now it's facing away from us. Now it's facing the opposite direction away from us. Okay, so let's rotate it 180 degrees. Oh my goodness, why can't I do anything? Why is it not rotating? Some things. Okay, don't know what happened there. So now it's pointing at us. Okay, it did flip, but we jumped over it, of course. There we go. So you can see how it is following us there. Dunk. So we can go ahead and get rid of the nose a little bit. We probably still want a little bit of a nose just so we can know what the heck is going on. There we go. So we can see which way it's pointing. Okay. So now the guy is going to follow, look towards us. So all we have to do now is say, hey, just always move forward. So look at player. So what this will do is it'll make him kind of a simple little drone type bad guy. Okay, so move in your positive x-axis locally. So apparently that's not as positive x-axis locally. So now he's pushing us back, and he's always following us. So of course that's a little bit fast. Maybe we want him to have some more realistic physics instead of just being able to turn on a dime like we can. Nah. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. It's too late. Alright, so now he's going to come towards us much slower. You could even write something where you could say the farther away he is, the faster you should move, but that's kind of lame. So we'll do that, and then make sure he flips around. Yeah, if I could do this. Let's make him go a little faster. That's probably good speed. Come over here. Now he's going to follow us this way. Boink, until we land on top of him. Okay, so now, just for some kicks and giggles, let's make some more bad guys. Oops. Now I wonder why they're not trying to follow me as well. Oh, because they don't have the little doodad. So this is one little funky thing. I think I put the always on the wrong piece, but it doesn't really matter because in theory they're roaming around together anyways. So we can see. Oh, boop, oh, up, up, and there we go. Get off, get off. Oh no! And our health is getting pretty low. So of course, another good thing we need to have then is a game over. So when the player's health does reach 0, it actually ends the game. So in reality, we'd actually want it to be something along the lines of, here we go, we're just going to add a property. So it checks the property. We really want it to go to a game over screen or something, but that's okay. So we'll say when it is equal to 0. Hopefully it never gets to negative anything. There's the possibility it could actually, if you hit like multiple bad guys at the same time and it jumped from 0 or from 1 to -1, you would never get a game over. But we'll just say that that's a cool little glitch we built in. At that point, not the motion, sorry. The game should stop. So, health 10. Why isn't my health going down? Not that I'm totally complaining, but I am complaining a little bit because it seems a little odd to me. Also, I don't like this whole glitch there. Oh, I'm a pro. I'm a pro. Give me some coins, bro. Okay, so why am I not getting hurt? It may have to do with the fact that they're not cubes anymore. So let's turn this guy just back into a good old-fashioned cube. Let's do, so I'm back in object mode here real quick. Shift S, cursor to selected so that it makes the cube right in the middle. Add cube, scale 0.5. So now it's going to come at us and will it take our health away? Nope. Just chuck testa. Why not? I guess I got rid of the wrong piece there. It would appear. Oh yeah, the collision with baddie never does anything now. I knew I got rid of that for a reason. Yeah, I got rid of it and it kind of did the wrong thing. So there we go. Try to keep things organized. That's another thing. It gets kind of tricky in here sometimes. So let's try this out. Make sure. Boom. There we go. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, well, it didn't kill the game. So let's figure out what's up with that. So down here, it should say whenever the property, wrong property, health, whenever it equals 0. Okay, the other thing we need to change too is right now it's just when it hits, if you stay on him, you don't actually die. That's not how it should work. It should happen all the time. So now we'll go down real fast. Of course, we don't want it that fast, so let's move it up to 50. So now it's pulses. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let's do 25, a little bit faster. Boom, 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 boom. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Boom. There we go. Game over. All right, sweet. So we've pretty much finished the game. What's left now is graphic stuff, and we can hash through that in a different episode. Probably the next episode we'll go through and add some more. I'm getting tired for tonight though, so I'm going to upload this into parts, and hopefully you guys enjoy this. This will probably be a little bit closer to what some of the tutorials that I do from now on are, depending on feedback. I'm really sorry about not finishing the whole RPG tutorial series yet, but I mean, I kind of got bored with it, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'll finish it up. That's a really jerk thing to say. Anyways, so there we have it. That's pretty much it. The only other thing I can think of that's kind of cool that maybe you guys should know, and we'll go over this real quick, is how to export it so that you can send it to your friends. And then another thing is parallax scrolling, which is actually kind of cool. So if you look at an old Mario game, you see things in the background go move side to side along with your camera to kind of give an idea of depth. Now, if we are in perspective mode on our camera, we get that naturally. And I'll give you an example here real quick. If we put a sphere just behind it here in the near background, another sphere back here farther, another sphere back here farther. As we move around, you see that they move relative to each other, so it gives it a sense of perspective. That's what perspective's there for. What parallax scrolling did was it simulated that by having typically 2 to 3 layers behind, clouds, hills, things like that, and they would move. Now the tricky part is when we get into orthographic view, we lose that because it's orthographic. So it all looks like it's right there, which can be fun if you have like background stuff, of course, but you have to find a way to differentiate it, which is part of the reason, again, why I like perspective stuff. If you wanted to do parallax scrolling, you'd have to actually program it when you get when you're in orthographic mode like this. So I will not be using it. Sorry, I had to adjust the mic there a little bit. So I will not be using parallax scrolling in this one. We'll talk about some background stuff to do later. So for now, that's what we've got. Oh, you know what? I just realized what I forgot. We're not done yet. We need some sort of power-up. I mean, you can't go all your whole life without power-ups. So maybe what we could do is we could say coins are used for power-ups. So when you reach 20, you get an extra health. Even if you're already at 10, then you get like 11. We could say 20, or we'll say 10 maybe. I don't know. 20 seems like a bit much. So here's how we'll do that. Back in the player again. You can. So this one here is. We'll call it game over. Just so game over. Okay, we're going to add another sensor, a property sensor. And then we'll say, hey, if coins equals 10, then go ahead and do something for me, bro. 1 up is what we'll call it. All right, we're going to add a controller. You can see a lot of this is kind of repetitive, time consuming, but it's actually kind of fun the more you get into it. So now we're going to add another property change here, because we have to change 2 properties, don't forget. One, we have to say, okay, coins goes back down to 0. And let's test that out real quick to make sure we're working here. Go ahead and kill this guy. Get out of here. So when we have 10, it goes back down to 0 and then starts counting back up again. Perfect. So coins equals 0. Now we add another property actuator. Health plus equals 1. Obviously, this is not really what it's doing. That's just the name, but it helps me keep track of it. So then we add 1 to health. So now, if we kill our health out a little bit, oh no! Give ourselves a ton of coins with our little glitch there. We got 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope, there 8. And if we keep going, maybe we can get it leaned up just right. Oh, look at that. You can actually get on top. Oh, that's so cheating. What a cruel world. Oh, and you can jump off the coins, I think. There is a little... That's an interesting little glitch there. So now you can see we've got a higher than 12. I think so. All right, so hopefully that answers a lot of your guys' questions. Of course, you can do the same thing as you did with the coins, but with a heart if you want it, or a one-up mushroom, things like that. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. You could even have little, bumpers on each vertical wall. So when something comes, or bumpers on the front of the back of a Goomba, so he walks until he hits something, turns around and goes back the other direction. Turns around and goes back the other direction, just like the ones in Mario if you wanted. But seeing as how I've already gone on for probably half an hour. Oh wow, an hour and a bit. There we go. So this is, like I said, getting a working prototype done. There we go. If you guys like this, subscribe, give me some thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. And hopefully in the next video we can talk a little bit about how to actually start adding some graphics to this, some music to this, sound effects, fun stuff like that. But it'll be building off this same thing here. So I know I've done this like 100 times, but I'm not actually done yet, am I? I need to show you guys how to put it out to a game. So there's two ways we can do this. I'm going to pull up a file browser here. So the first way, you can see if we go into our game folder here, we have game.blend. 1 and 2 are just backups. You don't actually need those. However, I wouldn't get rid of them until you don't need them anymore. What you can do is you can go into your Blender folder here. This Blender player file is really cool. So if we copy it, paste it in here, and we drag our game.blend into Blender player, it's actually going to freak out and say, sorry, I can't run. There we go. Open color IO. There's a bunch of DLL files that it's going to need. And you'll need these either way. So I'm just letting you know that right now. Whether you're on, whether you export it, which I'll show you how to do in a second, or if you're using Blender Player. So we're going to go ahead and copy the files. So it's all these DLLs. Just for now, I'm just going to copy all the DLL files. I'm not 100% sure that you need all of them. Some people have them already installed, a couple, some of them don't. It just depends. But to be safe, I would just go ahead and put them all in here. Again, there's a lot of DLLs to keep this thing running, but that's okay. Then you drag the blend file into the player, and it freaks out. Awesome. I love when that happens. Let's see why this is freaking out. We're not using any external things. I don't know. Okay, well, I guess we're just going to do the export version. I feel silly now. Okay, so let's get rid of all these files here. We don't need them anymore. I think it exports the files that you need with it. We'll find out if not. So we'll go back into Blender. Load back up our game. Gonna go to File, User Preferences, Add-ons. Go down to Game Engine, and here we go. Save Game Engine as runtime. So all it's basically doing is putting the game that you just created, the blend file, and building it into Blender Player. We're going to export, save as engine runtime, game.exe. Oh no, something broke. Let's see. No such file or directory. See users, yada yada yada, all the way through. .exe.blend. Huh. Let's just do it in here, and we'll call it test.exe. Player path. So this is asking where Blender Player is. Let's to be honest, I'm not totally sure what's going on here. Something's not quite right. File, export, save as runtime, test. So it's having a hard time getting something here. Let's try doing it in a safer place, just a little bit easier to get to. We'll just put it straight on the C drive, make a new folder, call this guy game. Let's try this out. Again, like I said, this is all trial and error, just like as if I was doing it in IRL. That stands for in real life. That's really odd. So it's having a hard time finding something that it needs. Bummer. It may have something to do with the fact that I'm running it out of the folder, zip folder, instead of, or I extracted a zip folder and it's not installed. So it's probably looking for something that it can't really find. I have a feeling it has to do with this right here, because I don't think that's the right. Yeah, that's definitely not the right path to Blender Player. So let's try that. So we're going to go in here. We're going to grab the string or the place that this Blender Player actually is. So if you go into your window browser, hit Windows E, something like that, it'll pull this up. I think this is the same one that comes with it, or else it's with this desktop app I use for Windows 8. But you can click on it, Control C to copy it, bring it over here, and go ahead and do it before Blend Player. There we go. / Let's try this out. Nope. Just chuck testa. So it's trying to open that file, and it doesn't know how to open it. It's a little bit odd, I'm not going to lie. And that's because it can't look and search for things. See. Well, I guess we'll figure that out next time then. Obviously, this thing has its issues, and apparently I'm not here to help fix them. So one last thing we can try is to toggle the system console and see if there's something that comes up funky when we test it. There's that. So location unknown, that's what it doesn't know. So there's something it's looking for that it doesn't know. It's this C users DHECHO5 desktop game.exe.blend. So it's supposed to be creating some file that it's not. And we can figure that out some other time. So hopefully this helps you guys out. That's all I got for you. Have a good one, guys.